So today's video, is it a deal? As property investors, we definitely need to know whether the numbers stack up and whether ultimately it answers the question, is it a deal? Now, before we get into the video, you need to clearly understand the metrics or your criteria to decide whether it is a deal or not. So you may just be looking at your single, single buy to lets. You might be looking at multi lets, HMOs. You might be looking at title splits, maybe creating separate units within a particular property. You might just be looking at it from a flip perspective. So what's one deal for one investor might not be another deal for another investor, even if you're both doing the same strategy. So, for instance, I speak to people that just have single lets, which is absolutely fine. A massive part of our portfolio is single lets, classic bread and butter type of stock. However, some people want better cash flow than others. Some people want a better return on, investment, return on capital employed than others. So, just be aware, you need to know your metrics. You need to know the criteria for what is, determines a deal for you or not. So I'm just going to quickly go over one of the things, or one of the properties we reviewed, not yesterday, the day before. To give you a little bit of background of this, the estate agent rang us up and said, please can you just come around and have a look at this property? We're not managing to get any offers. We've only had 7 or 8 viewings and we just want a bit of feedback. Now, on a side note, that's a good thing really, because that's happened to us before over the months and over the years and so on. You're starting to build rapport with the agent and they want your honest feedback. So to give you a little bit of an update on this property, or to give you some of the figures, it is, sorry, a back-to-back property. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, especially in the northwest of England. There's lots of them around Leeds and so on. But we don't actually have any back-to-back properties in our portfolio. So it was originally up for 110. Now, some people looking at that, I suppose I need to get a thicker marker. Some people looking at that might think, wow, that's, really good value for money, especially if you're looking at it down in the south. But it was 110. Then it was reduced to 100,000, and it's a one bed back to back this. And then, not last week, the week before, it was finally then reduced to 90,000. Now, for some people, they might think, right, that's fantastic. It's only a small amount for the 25% deposit. It's obviously the stamp duty nowadays, 5% of that. So 4,500, 4,600, whatever. So with small figures, obviously the deal can seem to look better and so on. Now, what we liked about this was the fact that it was 90 and it's got the potential to be split into a 2-bed. So at the moment now, it's 1 bed, and we were looking at it to be presented into a 2-bed. I will try and work on my handwriting. I do apologise about that. Something my school teachers used to tell me when I was a little boy all those years ago. Anyway, so it's up for 90k, which is good. It does have the potential to be a 2-bed. So from the outside looking in, you're thinking, right, that's not too bad, that, especially in our investment area. The properties that we have, your typical, like I said, bread and butter 2-bed terrace and so on, they're renting out between 750 and 895. We haven't got any yet that have pushed 2-bed terrace, that have pushed the 895 barrier. So if you were thinking, right, 2-bed, probably worst case scenario, we could get 750 per calendar month. Now, if you're going for the old classic gross yield, which is a good baseline measure, it just allows you to compare things across. Let me get my trusty calculator out here. So you're going to be looking at there to get that gross yield, 750 multiplied by 12 is 9,000. So then you're going to be looking pretty much at a 10% gross yield. Just remember that, okay? So I'm going to put down there gross. There's good things about that, and also there's bad things about it in the fact that it doesn't take into consideration any type of expenditure or anything. However, it's really, really broad, basic measure to test the deal and so on. So from looking at this now, it seems all right from the outset. Again, it all depends on your metrics. So as an investor, regardless if you haven't got any properties yet, or you're small in your portfolio days, but well done for taking the initial steps, you need to be clear on what the criteria is that determines whether it is a deal for you or not. So from that now, the gross yield looks all right. But if we start to dig a little bit deeper, in order for it to be converted into a 2-bed, it needs a full rewire anyway. It needs definitely a brand new front door. It was an old, there's nothing wrong with wooden doors, but it must have been on there 30 odd years and so on. Really old kitchen, tiny little L-shaped kitchen. The boiler was on its last legs. The bathroom would need to come out if we were looking to transfer it to, obviously convert it into a 2-bed. And the 2-bed, just be aware, obviously National Living Space Standards, it was going to meet those criteria. So you just always be aware that, I can get a second bedroom and a third bedroom in there, but really it's about 2 foot by 2 foot. So always be aware of that. So it was probably going to need about 20-ish thousand on the refurb and so on. So then suddenly that 90 then goes to 110 end price. Now, for those of you who are doing the BRRR strategy, fantastic strategy, definitely. We then thought to ourselves, right, if it's going to be 90 plus another 20, that's not including any stamp duty, land tax, or your legal fees, or your searches and so on. You're probably looking at about 115, maybe even a little bit more with your 10% contingency on the refurb. You might be all in for, again, apologies for my handwriting, but hopefully we're understanding this. You might be all in for 120. Now, 2-bed terraces in our investment area are going for, again, depending on the condition, a minimum 125, upwards 135, 145, 155. I saw one the other day up for 185. It's good for us because we've got a couple on that street and we purchased 105 and 115 about 3 years ago. So it's fantastic for us. Whether or not it'll sell for that's a different thing. But anyway, getting back to it, you've then got to think, right, if we go for the BRRR strategy, what's our, refinance figures? A little tip, always have a good, a bad, and an ugly figure. The good is the high figure that you want to achieve. The bad or the medium is the, we're okay with that. And then underneath the ugly figure will be the one you're not really happy with. I generally think that for a high value there on that street, we're probably pushing 130. It's on a busy main road. It's on double yellows. Again, at the end of the day, it's a back-to-back. Probably 120 will be okay. And then 110 is like the minimum one. So this is now where you start to think, is it really worth it, really? So again, I don't want to go too in depth with the figures here and so on, working out the return on capital employed, but just always think to yourself, if somebody says it's a deal, you just need to check if it works your criteria as being a deal, or if it meets your criteria for being a deal. Because somebody who is very, very cash rich will think, yeah, I've got no problem at all with that. I'll drop 25 into that, rent it out again, and again, just get that cash flow coming in. Other people that might be wanting to really squeeze their investments, which I'd always suggest you do, and want to make sure it increases cash flow each and every month, other people would look at it and go, do you know what? There's a little bit better out there. Okay, so, and other things as well, you probably picked this up before from me. There's no way I'd be looking to purchase it for that asking price. Definitely not. We based our figures on a maximum of 85. We'd probably put in an offer of 75, 76 and maybe go to like 80, 81, possibly 82. We always want to try and lock in profit on the day of purchase, definitely. Just to hedge your bets. So, is it a deal? Classic saying there. Is it a deal? For you to work it out, first of all, I'd be looking at the gross, but there's so many things within that gross. But again, it's a good baseline measure. I'd be looking at how much I needed to put into that deal. So again, I get the trusty calculator out there now. So at current rates now, if we're looking to just do a standard buy to let, so we'd need 25% of that. So cash in there, we would need 22.5. Okay, that's for your deposit. So again, I apologize about my handwriting. Plus then you're going to be, let's have a look at 2k legal fees, there or thereabouts. And other thing there as well, let's go for stamp duty, 90,000 multiplied by 0.05, 5%, 4,500 stamp duty there. So even if, and again, there's maybe some people that are going to be questioning my handwriting or even my maths, even if you didn't do anything to the property, which you wouldn't be able to do because it does need a new rewire and a new kitchen and so on, you're 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, you're 29,000 into the deal already without a refurb. Again, if you're looking to pull all your money out, generally, in our experience, the smaller the purchase property price, the harder it is to pull as much money out as possible. We've had our best BRRR strategies, our best money out deals with bigger properties. I'm not talking 4 or 5 bed detached. I'm talking large end townhouses or semi-detached houses where we can really add some value to it. So just keep that in mind, really. I hope that's helped some people. Again, is it a deal? First of all, you need to know the metrics that determines whether it is a deal for you or not. Again, are you looking to then put it as a multi-let? This is no good for that. Are you looking to then maybe do it as serviced accommodation? Are you looking just to flip it completely straight away? Regardless of what it is, if you're a property investor, I would always be trying to purchase it as low as possible. You may have heard me say this before, especially if you've read it in the blogs or anything like that. I would always be a little bit embarrassed by my initial offer, because the last thing you want, and this has only happened to us once, probably in the last 5-6 years, is to have your initial offer accepted. Because if you do have your initial offer accepted, it means you have offered too much and they would likely to have accepted a lower offer. So that hasn't happened to us for a long time. But yeah, I hope that's helped some people. Just keep taking steps further forward. Make sure that you're aware of your investment area. Make sure you're building relationships with your agents and so on. And yeah, good luck, all the best. If you like the video, please subscribe to the channel. We try to put out a few property videos each week, but there's obviously more videos in here on mindset, business and wealth, because it's this that we need to constantly work on, because it's that what's going to help you achieve your goals. Good luck, everybody. All the best.